Welcome into week 6. Oh my gosh, the wire's back. Week 6. We are a third of the way through the season. I cannot believe it.
Crazy.
Man, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And of course,
goes by fast.
Yep. And of course, here he is again. He decided to come back for another week of punishment for the waiver wire. Mike Berlin, thank you so much for coming on.
Bro.
I'm super pumped for it.
yeah. Thanks for having me. Glad to be back. Hopefully, interesting waiver wire this week. I think no home runs, but some good players that can help you.
I mean, if you can get some, there is at least one I think that will be a pretty decent pickup for you.
Yeah,
but
right.
I guess the big reason that we're here is we start bye weeks this week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you have a Lion, DeAndre Swift, you've kind of been without already. Jamal Williams has been a nice fill-in, minus his past week. Again, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's been being saved by Josh Reynolds. If you had both of those, both options that we were easily had on the waiver wire, going to the Titans, Derrick Henry, Robert Woods, Treylon Burks. I mean, now he's out for a couple more weeks. Any Raiders? Darren Waller, I guess, has been inconsistent. Devontae Adams also inconsistent. And then
Josh
Texans.
Jacobs.
Oh, yeah, Josh Jacobs, who actually has been really good. I've been super pumped about him.
Yeah, me too.
So
a good surprise.
Yeah. I mean, and somebody got pretty late at a good price, and that works out pretty well. And then finally the Texans, who Dameon Pierce is coming along, and if Brandon Cooks could figure out where he left all his fantasy points, that'd be great. I'd really like that to come back.
Yeah. First week of bye weeks, and I always, people, I think, everyone wants the studs on their team and everything, but it's really the bye weeks kind of separate the good teams from those middle of the road fringe playoff teams, and there's always that team. It's like, wow, they have a good team, but no depth. And bye weeks come, and they lose 2 or 3 weeks here or there, and they're out of the playoffs because of it. So super important to stay on top of it.
Yeah, so we'll start off like we always do with quarterbacks. Of course, the one who is actually the 9th best currently in fantasy football, Carson Wentz. It's just atrocious. You don't want to hear anything about it, but he's put up good numbers every week, except for, he always has those 2 weeks against tough defenses or teams that really like to run the ball. But looking at it so far, he has a great matchup against the Bears, who are just absolutely giving it up. Week 1 versus Jacksonville, 27.72 fantasy points. Week 2 versus the Lions, 27.78 fantasy points. Week 3 versus Eagles, who looked almost unstoppable until this week, which just blew me away. But 8.64 fantasy points. Week 4, Cowboys, 7.3. And finally, week 5, 21.86 against the Titans. He's putting up good numbers. He has great weapons. Just got Brian Robinson back. I'm curious to see how that's going to end up splitting. But 47.7% rostered currently in ESPN leagues. Could be worse.
Yeah.
But I think there's one better one, but we'll get to that here in a second.
Yeah, just quick note on Wentz. He feels like the ultimate who's he playing type of matchup quarterback. So
absolutely a streamer.
Yeah, he's Jacksonville Lions, Titans, good numbers. Eagles, Cowboys, bad numbers. So I could see him even. Yep.
This week,
playing the Bears this week.
That's why it's a great streamer if you're looking for this week. He's going to play the Bears. That should be a good matchup.
Yep, exactly.
Offered Geno and Pollard for CEH and Duvernay. I have Dak. Man, I guess it really depends on who you have for waiver wire. I really like Geno, currently the 5th best quarterback, and we're going to get to him because he's one of my favorites for the waiver wire for sure. But I think because of who you're giving up, and getting CEH is definitely a big improvement if you're hurting at running back with Wilson going to be potentially taken over with Mitchell coming back, Hunt splitting, Akers splitting, having CEH as a clear back. You probably want to take that.
So he's getting Geno and Pollard, or he's getting CEH and Duvernay
being offered. So I'm not sure which side he's on. I would assume that he would be getting Geno. But because of his running backs,
it comes down to Pollard versus CEH. I guess they're kind of similar in terms of the amount of touches they're getting, and CEH obviously in the better offense,
and that's a huge part of it.
So I'd probably stick with CEH
and Duvernay, who's actually been one of the most consistent players. I'm getting Geno. Yeah, I just don't think it's really worth it then. I mean, I like Geno. I don't think he's going to be slowing down at all because their schedule looks just delicious moving forward. And he's moving the ball well. I mean, he's using both receivers, making it very difficult on defenses, and even the running game's looking solid. So,
yeah, and Dak. I know he said he has Dak as his quarterback. Maybe he comes back this week. Definitely, I think in 2 weeks after the Eagles. And I think the Cowboys have a pretty nice schedule coming up, 3-4 week stretch of kind of get Dak back.
They made a little bit further than the Seahawks last year when it comes to playoffs and everything else. Or they have a little tougher schedule, but it's still not that bad. I mean, they'll play the 49ers, which is always always rough. So, but like we were talking about, Geno Smith is another waiver wire quarterback, 32.5% rostered currently, and is actually the 5th best quarterback in fantasy right now. I mean, week 1 versus Denver, 17.2 fantasy points. Week 2 versus the 49ers, 6.8. Not super surprising because 49ers are a good defense. Week 3 versus the Falcons, 18.9 fantasy points. And week 4 versus the Lions, 31.7 fantasy points. I mean, he's just putting up numbers week after week, and it's nothing that's going to kill you, but it's definitely, I mean, it's interesting to see. And I think going up against the Saints, who it looked good. I mean, I thought he looked really impressive this past week.
Yeah. So I agree. And he has the weapons. People kind of forgot about Metcalf and Lockett. I feel like they fell down the draft boards this year, but he has those weapons. And if you have weapons as a quarterback, he didn't have that in New York with the Jets, and he has that now with the Seahawks, and it's showing. It's really helping him. So I like Geno as a pickup and to kind of hold on to until you kind of see a downtrend.
Yeah, super flex. Have Lamar and Dak. Lose Dak week 1. Have to surf with May. Oh, now he's out and he stinks. Need Dak to come back. That's absolutely the truth. I mean, if like we're talking about, Geno is probably one of the better options. I'm not gonna lie.
Super flex.
Yeah, especially there, I don't know. I doubt he's there. If you're looking into deep leagues, I'm this week. If he is still a quarterback, I like Bailey Zappi. I mean, he looked good. They got kind of bailed out because they were able to run the ball a lot, and that definitely helped lower his score. But it really is just dependent on who's available in your league that we could help with it. Because let's see, if I pull up Bailey Zappi this week, he put up 10 fantasy points. Only had to throw up for 188 yards. I mean, it's
tough. It's tough. I mean, and Steve's saying PJ Walker. I mean, Skylar Thompson. We don't know what's happening with Bridgewater and Tua. They're kind of up in the air. And I know Tyreek Hill's even hurt, but if all the weapons are there and they have a week of preparation and Skylar Thompson knows he's the quarterback, maybe you can throw him in for next week. I'm not sure who the Dolphins are playing, but it's rough in Superflex though. I know it's really hard to find something if one of your guys gets hurt. Luckily, you have Lamar, who's kind of a quarterback and a half right now.
Yeah, so the Dolphins will be playing the Vikings.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a pretty good matchup if that's somebody – if in a deeper league, people probably aren't looking at Skylar, that's a good option. I mean, on, I guess, the other side of the ball, Andy Dalton, if he's the quarterback still, I mean, probably still pretty available, would be another good name. And, of course, if you just want to – if Mac Jones plays, I don't know. I'm sure he's probably rostered in Superflex. But – so those are a couple names that we could roll with and be okay working on. But is any other quarterbacks that I kind of missed that you think people should be dealing with this week?
Yeah, actually, I have two. One of them's Jameis. We still don't know about his injury, so if you have early waivers, you might not know, so probably don't take that risk. But he was having a decent season before he got hurt. I think he was top 6 or 7 in passing yards. He had 6 touchdowns through 3 weeks, so a couple touchdowns a week average. So there's always Jameis, and then Kenny Pickett, if more for deeper leagues, maybe Superflex if he's there. I doubt it, but if he is there, he had 300 yards against the Bills. There's going to be growing pains. Steelers have a really tough schedule for the next 4 or 5 weeks. So he's one of those where if you have a quarterback who kind of has a bye later in the year, just maybe throw him on your roster or keep him in mind as someone that might take 4, 5, 6 weeks to go through the growing pains, but by the end of November he might be looking pretty good. So but other than Wentz and Geno, I don't. Those are the two main guys for sure.
Yeah, I liked only PJ. Oh, what are you talking about? Those are great options. I mean,
yeah.
If Winston's out, I love Dalton. Great matchup. And then, I mean, backstory. I really liked PJ Walker when he initially came in. I had a lot of high hopes for him. I didn't like where he ended up, but he can sling the ball in a game. So let's see. I got to see who they're actually playing real quick, though.
We didn't talk about it. They did fire Matt Rule. I don't know what that means for the team. If the offense is going to change a bit, inspire the team. I don't know. But that's something to keep in mind as well. So
let's see. They are playing the Rams. So he could be doing worse. I mean, he's probably going to struggle a little bit, but it's just going to take a couple. I mean, the Rams aren't that defense that we're super scared of anymore. Because they aren't able to put up the numbers. So people aren't going to have to force the issue.
Yeah, I think assuming Jameis is out, I'd probably go Dalton first. Over PJ Walker, but you still have that up in the air of is Dalton even going to be the starter, and you might not know by the time waivers run. So a little more for sure answer, I think. Is it for sure that PJ Walker is going to be starting? I know Mayfield had a
he's trying to. He's getting so Baker's trying to find a second opinion to see if he can actually play. Which I mean, if you're just standing back there, that's fine. But if you're trying to be mobile whatsoever, you're going to have a long day ahead of you. But again, those are definitely some options to look at for sure. I agree that if you absolutely need somebody this week and you already have the starting quarterback, you might as well pick up the backup in PJ, and he'll be a more solidified option for you there. But we'll move into running backs. Again, more familiar names. One's a newcomer because I figured everybody would have him. I guess a lot of people dropped him over the past couple of weeks. And it's Kenneth Walker. Yep. He's 47.5% rostered. Rashad Penny, I mean, that really sucks. Fractured fibula, season ending. He's not going back this year. And when Walker got the reins this past week, looked really good with it. I hated the fact that they kept bringing in DJ Dallas, which is unfortunate. But he is putting up good numbers. Week 2, I mean, he's been sharing snaps since week 2 when he came back. 3.5 fantasy points against the 49ers. That's not too bad. Week 3 versus the Falcons, 6.3. Week 4 versus the Lions, 3.4. But, of course, Penny is having big games during this entire time. And then week 5 versus the Saints, Penny goes out and he puts up 14.8 fantasy points. And the Saints are considered the 11th best defense against the running back until this week. And, I mean, that was a pretty impressive stat line for him.
Yeah. Just keep in mind, like you kind of mentioned, DJ Dallas coming in. I think it was like 100% of the third down snaps and plays that DJ Dallas is coming in. So just kind of keep that in mind. He's probably not going to catch many passes, but he could do similar to what Rashad Penny was doing. Kind of will need a lot of rushing yards to have big games, but it's possible for sure. And the Seahawks offense is, better than we expected. So they could be scoring touchdowns. So yeah, definitely. I was surprised Kenneth Walker was under 50% because he's a rookie, and when you draft him, at least when I draft him, they're going to take several weeks to most of the time to kind of get going. So,
and my sneaky thing is I either wait for somebody to drop him or try and trade for him. Like I was working on a trade for Breece Hall 2 weeks ago because I'm like, hey, he hasn't done anything. I'd rather have him on my bench than you have to deal with it. So. But they are facing the Cardinals this week. Also, the 11th best run defense. There's a couple that are tied right there. So, I mean, if you put up another 14 points, I'm happy running with them, especially this week where you're already down 4 teams. No Swift, no Henry. I mean, that moves them up a couple spots already. So,
exactly.
So again, more familiar names though. J.D. McKissic, Brian Robinson, still not over the 50% threshold in ESPN leagues. Don't know why you don't have him. McKissic continues to be one of the best flexes in the league. I mean, RB32, Robinson came in and immediately stole all the work. from Gibson, it was definitely rough. That was a very surprising bit for me. I thought he'd come in and just kind of slowly ease into the game, and that did not seem to be the case.
Yeah. I just to touch on McKissick, if you don't have a deep team or if you're in like a 14, 16 team league, McKissick I love during bye weeks because you kind of know what you're going to get with him. You're hoping for 5+ catches and whatever yards he gets with that, and he's going to throw in maybe 5-6 rushes, and that's just a nice in PPR leagues. It's a nice safe floor to get those 5, 6, 7 catches from your running back. So during bye weeks, especially.
Yeah. So if you have anytime that you're going to be low, if you don't have any running backs, he's going to be a great option that is going to put up 7 to 10 points every week. I mean, and at running back, that's pretty hard to find. The fact that he's still so widely available is just mind blowing to me.
Especially like you said, Swift, Henry's out, Josh Jacobs out, Dameon Pierce. That's 4 top 15 running backs, that are out this week.
Yeah, so he's moving up. I mean, what? So that put him at RB28 at that point. I mean, yeah. And if anybody else gets hurt, it's he's continues to just come up the board. So again, that's another name, and of course, the other half of the Denver duo in Mike Boone, 26.8% rostered. I think that he was one who slid into the Javonte role. He felt like he was taking the catches, getting a lot of the work. Week 5 versus the Colts, 11.5 fantasy points. I mean, he had a couple really big pass plays that he just took deep, and it was pretty good. And unfortunately, he faces our team. So we'll get to watch that next week on Monday versus the Chargers. But it's going to be a rough sledding for us, I'm sure.
Yeah, and running backs have enjoyed playing the Chargers the last couple of years, several years now. So
yeah,
I like having Boone on a roster. Do keep in mind, they did sign Latavius Murray. It was a Thursday night game, so he wasn't ready to play. So there's that aspect. There's that little, that could throw a wrench into things. But Mike Boone looked better than Melvin Gordon last Thursday, at least in my opinion. So we'll see what they do. Might not be able to start him this week, but he could be a better, long-term hold for sure.
Yeah. So those are my picks. Do you have any picks that you want to share? Anybody that you're interested in?
Yeah. I mentioned it last week, but Rachaad White, his snap counts are going up and the percentage is going up. I think I was reading that through the first 3 quarters when Tampa Bay kind of had that game in hand for the most part. They had a pretty even Fournette and Rachaad White were pretty even in terms of their snap count, and then Falcons started to make a comeback and they started to play Fournette more. But I think he's under 25% rostered, and if Fournette does get hurt, I think he's one of those that can win you your league type of players where he's probably going to get 70% of the snaps. He can catch the ball. He's on a really good offense, so I really like that just for the upside.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're thinking about stuff like that, one of my favorite things to do is on Sunday mornings, if you have somebody extra to drop, pick them up. I mean, if you have a handcuff that will take over immediately and have that production, drop a random player that just have on your bench and pick up your backup running back because, if you did that with Kenneth Walker, for example, this week, you're set. You don't have to rush to the waiver wire. You don't have to bid any fab. You already have them there.
We're seeing it every week. These running backs are going down. Fournette, he does get injured. He does get hurt. He carries the load. He's a running back that takes on contact. So I agree with that. I also, what I like to do a lot is, drop my kicker the beginning before waivers and then just hold on to an extra running back or receiver for the whole week and then drop them that Sunday morning when no one else can pick them up and just kind of protect these players so that if the running back does go down, you either have them on your team or no one else has them and you can get them through the next waiver run.
I mean, oh man, I guess I have to look and see who the Bucks are playing because I'm not 100% on that. But
Dylan, I mean, I think I would go Dylan Dobbins over McKissick. Full PPR.
So they play the Jets. So Green Bay plays the Jets. So that's probably going to be tougher than expected.
I'd probably go AJ Dillon. In my opinion, I just think I actually wrote about this in my trade article that will come out tomorrow morning about maybe trying to get AJ Dillon's kind of at the lowest value that he has been all year, and maybe you can kind of get him very cheaply. And it does feel like there's going to be a little bit of a market correction with the Packers. And I was looking at in their wins, they're rushing for 200 yards. In their losses, they're rushing for 100 or under 100 yards. So, it seems like Dillon and Aaron Jones just are their two best players on offense, skill position wise. And I feel like there could be a bit of a, that market correction where they're gonna run the ball and get the ball in their hands of Dillon and Aaron Jones. So I lean Dillon over McKissick here, especially in PP. I mean, versus Dobbins as well, because Dobbins, PPR is a little less valuable. So I don't know what you think there.
I mean, okay, I would try for him, but if you're dropping somebody, I'm probably okay dropping Madison right now. I mean, I would prefer to have him on my bench just because, for example, Madison is going to be on bye after this week. So you have another week that you're probably safe to hold on or to drop him and not worry about it. Pick him up next week and he'll be right back if you need an absolute fill in. And I actually, so based on the matchups, Dobbins is going against the Giants. Pretty good up front. Uh-oh. There we go.
Yeah,
so
against the Jets.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of tough run defenses there that you're kind of just not. I'd much rather take the chance on McKissick, who it's the Bears. Like, I know that's horrible to say, but at this point, I prefer to run against the Bears.
Yeah,
take that potential upside. I mean, Brian Robinson should definitely see a majority of the snaps, but even then, if McKissick gets the 5 carries and 5 catches, you're set, especially against the Bears. So yeah, I would probably try and get him on your team. Definitely would be a big help, but we'll get off a running back. He does run. Dang it, Steve.
Don't think he might have not had a carry last week actually, but usually he does get a few.
Let's see. See, now you have us doing all this extra work, and it's okay.
Yeah, zero rushes last week. Maybe that's the Brian Robinson effect.
5 catches, 5 receptions, not even catches, for 37 yards. So you got 8.7 points off of that. But the week before against Dallas, 8.
Yeah.
Eagles 3, Lions 3, Jacksonville 3. Granted, the yards kind of were brutal on that, but the 8 versus Dallas, he put up 40 yards on that run. So.
Yeah, you can make a case for McKissick, especially in PPR. I think I'd still go Dillon out of the list of running backs that was listed there. Just, he was before last week. I know he didn't get that many touches, but he was still getting 15 touches a game, a couple catches. So, but McKissick's, like I said, he's a good player to have on your team. And if you want to drop him for Madison, that's not the worst thing, but there is that upside with Madison if Cook goes down. So just kind of keep that in mind.
All right. And we'll move into wide receivers. Try and get through this a little quicker now that we're having too much fun. I want to be able to watch this game. I don't know why. I think this is going to be very high scoring, but it's the AFC West, so we're both kind of invested in this.
Yep.
But
speaking of
a great option right now.
Comment, Jason.
What's up?
We do have another comment there about number 1 waiver order. Would you grab Benjamin?
I mean, it's fine. Let's see. Harris is out more likely this week. Henderson's been so. Etienne, though, I'm okay running Etienne at this point. He looked pretty good last week. I don't know if that was a fleece job or what happened, but he got so much usage last week. And man, it threw my projections off. I thought for sure Robinson was just going to eat last week, and it did not happen.
Yeah, that's the super flex league. That's a tough one. It's tough to know with Arizona. Didn't 3 of the running backs just get hurt?
They're always hurt. Connor's always dealing with injury because that's who he is as a person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, I think it's worth a pickup on your team, just in case Connor is hurt a little longer, more long term. So I'm fine with grabbing if there's no one better in terms of receivers or other running backs there.
Yeah, I just don't want to waste a. I mean, if you're wasting the one, I doubt anybody else is going to go for Dalton and Walker. So I'd rather waste the first pick on Eno. If you, I mean, even your running backs aren't that. You need to start trying. We need to work a trade. Bill, you need to join the Discord here. It's clearly right. Wait, how do I get to
Under
it?
me.
I was like, how do I don't know how to move my finger. But yeah, join the Discord, patreon.com/important nonsense. If you go join the Discord, we'll gladly work with you to help get your trade set up, because we can, I mean, you have some options here that would really work with getting your running back situated for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
we still don't know about Damian Harris, if he's how injured is he? I think it was a hamstring, so we still don't know. I mean, maybe he misses
Bill's keeping it under wraps like he always does.
Yeah. Join that Discord and definitely post your team and pictures of it, and we can help you out.
Yeah, I mean, it's $1 a month. Yeah, just don't buy a coffee one day. You'll be completely fine. You can pay for 5 months off of that.
Yep.
But again, God, we keep getting sidetracked. Thanks so much, Bill. But we'll move into wide receivers. Talking about one for tonight. Talking about increased snap shares. Sky Moore, 28.6% rostered. I know. I don't love it. It seems like that entire team's just being hurt, though. And the snap percentage continues to go up. And it's just, I like his opportunities. He's a deeper threat. He looks explosive. He's starting to understand the offense a little more, giving him more opportunities. Granted, it's only 2 weeks that he's really been catching passes. He's been more of the punt return guy. So if you've been getting those points, that's been fine. But he also fumbled the punt, which I thought really hurt him. Clearly not. He continued to see more snaps. They really like him in Kansas City. So a sneaky ad tonight, if you're able to do it, just kind of put him on your bench. Another one is somebody that I've been pounding the table for a while, Devin Duvernay, 24.9% rostered. 24th best wide receiver in fantasy points until tonight. I'm just letting you know. Bateman's has an injury. He faces Giants next week. These are great things for him. And, I mean, he's put up double digits every week except for one. 21.4 against the Jets, 12.2 versus the Dolphins, 10.3 versus the Patriots, 9.1 versus the Bills, and then this past week, 12.8 versus the Bengals. Like, those are all solid numbers, and he's going to consistently do that, even with Bateman on the field and Andrews on the field.
Yeah, we saw Duvernay get, I think, his highest targets and receptions of the year with Bateman missing. And Bateman's injury is still kind of unknown. It's like a foot injury, it's always a little scary when you talk about feet injuries and Liz Frank and all that stuff. So it could be a little more long term than
absolutely hate tiny bones and soft tissues. It's things that can easily linger, are difficult to kind of repair. There's no clear cut of when the timeline actually is.
Yeah,
just terrifying.
Yeah, and especially if your league rewards like any type of kick returns, because he does that as well. So, I like the Duvernay, especially with Bateman. Who knows how long he can be out? It could be several weeks. He could be out. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that he probably comes back, but even if he does, I mean, dealing with that kind of injury, definitely a good option for you. Again, bringing up options that we've talked about: Alec Pierce, Wan'Dale Robinson. I know. Robinson still is injured, but Alec Pierce was one of my starts this week, and guess what? 8 for 81. He just keeps doing it. 60.1 fantasy points this week, 12 the week before, 9.1 before that. It just keeps getting better and better. I mean, as a second option to Pittman, he's doing some work.
Yeah. Yeah, they need someone to step up. Pittman is going to get the number one corner. That's kind of what happened last week with in the Denver game and Patrick Surtain and kind of covering Darby. Pittman. Yep, and Darby. And that's what's going to happen. And Alex Pierce, he's a big, tall receiver. And obviously Matt Ryan likes him, and they need someone else to help Pittman and just help that offense overall. So I like it.
Yeah, so those are my picks. Shocker, a lot of the same list because I love my guys. I can't help myself. All right, Mike, give me some of your picks. I don't. Everybody's tired of hearing about mine.
Yeah. I mentioned it last week. I really like Isaiah McKenzie still. I think his roster percentage actually went down, which makes sense because he missed last week with a concussion. But McKenzie, Crowder's out, and he's going to be out probably the rest of the season. I don't know if that was official or not, but he's going to miss a lot of time, if not the whole season. You're on potentially the best offense in the league. Josh Allen loves his slot receivers. Look at Beasley the last couple years, and now that's going to be McKenzie. And McKenzie was out, and Khalil Shakir played in the slot basically the whole game, and he had 75 yards and a touchdown. So if that's McKenzie, and he's not splitting time, hopefully, like he was with Crowder. If it's just McKenzie, you could be looking at like a really good wide receiver 3. They target him in the end zone. So I really, really like Isaiah McKenzie. I would throw him on my team for sure. He had a couple good weeks. Week 3 against the Dolphins, he had 21 points. Week 4 against the Ravens, he had 12 points, and he left with an injury that game. So he was almost like a 50-50 timeshare, maybe like a 60-40 timeshare with Crowder. And now that Crowder's not there. So I like McKenzie a lot. I'm not sure how you feel about him, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, but again, like you said, I think Shakir really kind of is going to end up eating into his snaps too, which is annoying.
Definitely gonna
happen. They keep trying to split up that position. Yeah. They just need to pick one and go with it. Yeah. I mean, have the other guys a backup that way it doesn't get hurt.
Yeah. Also, something to keep in mind was Dawson Knox has been hurt kind of all year, dealing with injuries and I think like back injuries and knee injuries, and he's just not healthy. And it seems like he kind of needs to take several weeks to get healthy because he's injured, comes back, and then he injured again. So something to keep in mind with McKenzie.
Yeah, Steve shares the sentiment that Shakir now becomes the Crowder and is just going to be an annoying pain in everybody's side. We don't want this in fantasy. Bills, stop doing it.
Yeah, even then, there's still value with Crowder and PPR leagues during buys. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility that Shakir is just the new Crowder. So, and then Rondale Moore, I like. This is kind of his first full week back. He had the injuries at the beginning of the year. He was basically entirely in the slot, which is really good news actually for when Hopkins comes back week 7, because
I know I saw them poking around about that, Steve. Don't worry, they'll trade for CMC and just wreck all of it. Yes,
yeah,
that will be terrifying. There will be no slot wide receiver. It will be all CMC.
I know.
Oh,
and they still won't run the ball, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, Rondale Moore, I mean, again, he's going to play in the slot. So Hopkins coming back may take some targets, but it's not going to take his starting position, essentially. And just look at what Greg Dortch was doing weeks 1 through 3. Dortch was actually the wide receiver 19 playing in the slot. And then Rondale Moore comes back. Dortch is basically, I think he had less than 5 or 10 snaps that game. Dortch is the backup again. Rondale Moore is in that spot. He even saw a couple carries in the game, which is always, something with Rondale Moore. There's that potential. And they were talking him up beginning of the year. Before his injury, they were talking him up and how they want to get him involved and get him the ball. And so I just think, Hopkins is coming back, but I think that can help. Just the overall offense is definitely going to help. And so that provides more touchdown opportunities. And so I like Rondale Moore as well, thrown on my bench and just kind of seeing what happens. You can maybe even start him in week 6. Hopkins isn't back yet. So if you're desperate. And then, my last one is just Treylon Burks. If you have IR spots, pick him up, throw him on your IR. It's always a good idea to do. So those are my 3.
All right. And we'll move into tight end. It's pretty easy here. It's a lot of the same names because they keep seeing the targets.
Yeah.
Hayden Hurst, Evan Ingram. I mean, Taysom Hill. If Winston continues to be out, it's hard not to put Taysom Hill in there because he runs the ball like a madman. And then a new name that I've added is Cameron Brate or K. Dotton, whoever ends up being the tight end for the Buccaneers, just because both of them saw a decent snap percentage and are getting targeted. So if they're going to start focusing on that, I would really like the tight end. I mean, it's no Gronk, but they're looking pretty good and seems to be building rapport in that Buccaneer offense.
Yeah, Yeah. Just about Taysom Hill, and yeah, I was I was in denial and didn't want to pick him up, and now it's just like I was kind of thinking about it for today's show, and it's just even with Winston, without Winston, he's averaging over 5, designed rushes a game, and I kind of think about like what other tight end can you guarantee they're going to get 5 touches? I know they're not catches, so you don't get the PPR or half PPR, but what other tight end? There's not many tight ends that you can just like I know he's going to get 5 touches. Taysom Hill gets that, and with Dalton starting, there's always the possibility of Dalton getting hurt, and Taysom Hill's the quarterback, and now you have a quarterback playing as your tight end. So,
which I mean, even kind of happened this week. It felt like with the 3
yeah.
touchdowns, that's just bananas for a tight end to score that much.
Yeah, and he threw one. It's insane. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna I'm not gonna fight it. If Taysom Hill's there, I'm gonna grab him. And I also like Irv Smith a little bit. I mean, this is like you're desperate and you need someone to fill in on your bye, and to me he's a nice bye week tight end because you kind of know what you're gonna get. He's getting 6 targets a game. And he's had a couple games where week 2 versus the Eagles, he had almost 15 points. Week 5 last week versus the Bears, he had over 8 points. But if you can find a tight end and you know what he's going to be in that Vikings offense, which is a pretty good offense, it's pretty good for a bye week of just filling in for your starter of saying, okay, I know this guy's going to get 6 targets on a good offense. Let's hope he can turn it into 8+ points or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's really what you're just hoping for when you're looking at any kind of tight end. The returner Zach Wilson has ruined Garrett Wilson and Conklin. Well, I mean, okay, so we'll kind of touch base on this. Garrett Wilson isn't necessarily having any issues. I expected him to do better than more this week, but it is going to be more. The name that people keep forgetting about is Corey Davis. He is the one consistently seeing targets. Doesn't matter who else is on the field. It's ugly. Him and Breece Hall now are going to be yeah. I get it. Everybody wants that Wilson connection, but it's not going to be you're hit or miss every week. It's going to be boom bust because he needs a big play, and I just now Conklin I'm sick of that. That really hurt. Saying his targets just dissipate, but again, not super surprising because it's now going to Breece Hall. I mean, which blew my mind. And it wasn't even close. Okay. When it looks at Zach Wilson, the real issue is he doesn't like anything close. He's not going to just dunk it off. It's not going to happen. It's going to be somewhere down the field. Breece Hall not getting 2 additional touchdowns is extremely frustrating because he gets stopped at the 1 on a big run. It's so annoying, but it's again, I get it. Wilson is frustrating, but a good streamer potential. We'll probably later down the year because I don't really love their matchup right now. But he has streaming potential as a quarterback because he looked pretty good this past week. Not super, but serviceable. Gets the Packers this week, which not super excited about, but we'll move the defenses.
Yeah, just real quick, Garrett Wilson. Yeah, it's hard to see it, but he's talented, and it just may take, just like any rookie receiver. Flacco was a veteran, and he knew what he was doing. Wilson is still learning, right? So, just like with any rookie receiver, it's going to take him a few weeks. So, kind of, we were in week 4, I think, when Zach Wilson took over. But think of that as like week 1 for the rookie receiver, and maybe in week 8 or 9. We'll see Garrett Wilson and Zach Wilson kind of click, hopefully, but it's tough.
Well, I mean, you kind of saw it last year with Elijah Moore. My issue is just that if he builds that rapport with just Elijah Moore, that's the issue. Second question. I've got Bateman, Dotson, Jamar Jefferson, Palmer, Pitts looking ahead at Jefferson's bye and the injuries. Should I scrap McKissick and go for Alec Pierce? Probably. Yeah, I mean, I would, but I'm very biased when it comes to Alec Pierce. So I've been breaking that drum all year. I was excited for him to be on the Colts as a second wide receiver. And I would prefer him over McKissick for sure.
Yeah, like what you're going to get with McKissick kind of, and Alec Pierce just has much more upside to help your team. So, although he does have some good receivers, he has pretty good receivers.
Yeah,
Bateman again. There. Yeah, Bateman, we just don't know. Dotson, and he's kind of touchdown dependent, unfortunately, but he's just been getting touchdowns, which is why his numbers look good. And
Steve got it. There we go. He's on the Pierce train. Don't let him fool you. It's coming in hot. But yeah, I'm excited for him. And so again, trying to get to defenses. Golly, my brain just keeps going off the tracks all day. So defenses, Bengals 26.5% rostered. They haven't gone negative even against this past week against the Ravens. Like, I was super impressed with how they looked. They held up, were able to kind of contain Lamar, and that's a feat in itself. The fact that they didn't go negative, I'm excited for them.
Yeah.
The other one is a little uglier. Not my safest play. I'd much prefer the Bengals, but the Commanders are the other option, 20.1% rostered. But they play the Bears, 7th best matchup for defenses. I mean, the only negative points that they've put up this year is against the Lions, who I feel like everybody did until recently. I mean, they've just been stacking on the points. So this past week against the Titans, they put up 7 fantasy points. It's I just don't see that's a safe option. Safe option, I guess. It's scary to me, but you have any better options maybe that people would be more interested in?
Yeah, I don't know about better. Well, I mentioned Jacksonville last week, and they're still under that 50% threshold. They didn't look. I mean, they didn't fantasy-wise. They only got 5 points versus the Texans, which is actually their lowest of the year, and they played, the Chargers and the Eagles and the Colts. So it's kind of strange. The Texans just always 9 straight times the Texans have beat Jacksonville. So division rivals going to happen, and I haven't gone back and watched the game. I don't know, if there was a lot of turnovers on offense where they kind of put the defense in a bad position and gave up points just due to good starting field position for Houston. But I'd still go Jacksonville. They play the Colts this week, who they had 21 points against in week 2 as a defense. They shut them out. And we just saw the Colts look terrible last Thursday. So, they will get Jonathan Taylor back, but and then they also have the Giants and the Broncos the following 2 weeks after the Colts this week. So there's that. And then, the Vikings. And the reason why I put the Vikings is just because they're playing the Dolphins. So if Skylar Thompson has to start and Tyreek Hill's out, that could be a good play.
Also, Waddle's still dealing with injury. I mean, it's getting real ugly for Miami right now, and they were kind of cruising there for a minute. So if they're onto the 3rd string, that could be a pretty good option that I'd be interested in.
Yeah, definitely. So those are mine too, but I like the Bengals and even the Commanders as well. So you got some options for sure.
All right. Also, hopefully we've helped you somewhat. We got really sidetracked. Go figure. It happens with me running the show. I don't know why they allow me to do this every week, but here we are. If you haven't already, make sure you go to shot.importantnonsense.com, promo code nerd. We have a bunch of great options. We actually have a Halloween shirt. Really like it. I think it's sweet. There's a lot of great options there if you want to support us that way. Otherwise, join the Discord, patreon.com/importantnonsense. And if anything you want to plug, Mike?
Definitely the Discord. I'm on there a lot with Jason and Steve and others, and it's a little easier. You get better feedback and just better information from us there a little bit as we can sit and think about it maybe for a second. And so definitely on Discord. I enjoy answering people's questions there. Write trade articles for Important Nonsense. They come out every Tuesday mid-morning, so look for that. Some buy lows and sell highs, and just Twitter at Michael Berland, BURLAND, and that's where you can catch me.
Perfect. And I saw a question about Geno or Goff the rest of the season. So, I mean, for me, my only issue is that we've seen Goff completely disappear like he did this week, which can very easily happen. So until Geno shows me that he just disappears, I would much rather have Geno at this point.
Yeah.
Hey.
It's a tough one. I I think I'd go Gino. I'd have to look at their schedules a little bit, but I want to lean Gino. Yeah, I think I'd lean Gino there, but I like Goff too. They were the number one offense going into last week, and Patriots just they can devise a plan and shut down a quarterback or your best option. So we'll see. We'll see with the Lions. I think they have the Cowboys this week, so or in 2 weeks. I think they're on a bye.
Bye this week, and then they're
Yeah.
at the Cowboys. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but again, hey, PF Brand, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited that you were able to make it in. I know I keep pushing this on you, but I really just wanted to see what we were about.
Mhm.
Otherwise, thank you all for joining us. Already got all of our information. Come back Thursday. We're going to have our normal show, roster of the people. We help with your start-sit questions up until kickoff, and then we really start to break down my favorite picks. Like this past week, you missed out on, for example, Alec Pierce, starting the Titans defense. These were home run picks for me, and they paid off pretty well this week. So outside of that, I hope you all have a great week. Hopefully you get all you need off the waiver wire. And until next time, remember to keep up the nonsense.